Welcome to Sink or Swim, presented by Squid Group, your digital marketing partner. Managing trademarks and intellectual property disputes. I speak with Nico De Jong in an open chat about eating piranhas while swimming with sharks and crocodiles, and how this relates to managing disputes around trademarks. Learn some of the basics for how you can manage your business's IP. Hope you enjoy it. Hey. How you going?
Yeah, pretty well, thanks.
That's good. So, same clothes?
Outfit, yep.
But have you been barreled since we last spoke?
I haven't had time to change outfits, do any washing. I'm just been out there in the surf getting barreled. Yeah, have you seen the size of the waves at the moment? Terrifying.
Absolute tubes. So, before we get into the exciting stuff, like managing disputes for IP, which I know is something that you just wake up every day overly excited about.
You're right. Sometimes I lay awake at night so excited about them.
Tell me a little bit about how about your barreling, getting tubed.
Yeah, so not quite as exciting as trademark disputes or disputes in general, fights, but look, I would hope that my legal career is a lot more distinguished than my surfing career. I try hard surfing. I surf quite a lot. I'm just not very good, but I do enjoy it.
Do you think that has something to do with like the fact that sometimes you try and surf with like a moon boot on?
That, yes, or taking the moon boot off while it shouldn't be off is also not great for surfing. But even in peak physical fitness, I struggle. And you see these little kids out there who are ripping. They're just going for it, and it's disheartening and frustrating.
So what would you say is your most memorable surf? Is it in New Zealand or?
Yeah, it's in New Zealand. We go up to Poppeys quite a lot, up in the Coromandel. I probably just butchered how you actually say that. It's quite a difficult one. But yeah, it's just got a nice break. Don't tend to get too many point breaks around here, do we? So we're just beach surfers kind of taking what we can get. What about you?
I would say the best surf the closest I've ever come to drowning is in Hawaii. My best surf I've ever had was actually not that long ago at Matakana Island.
Yeah,
that was like really fun size. It was about probably like 2 to 3 meters, and it wasn't like terrifying Matakana, but it was like big enough that like you definitely knew you were catching a relatively good wave.
Before getting smashed on the beach.
Yeah.
The near drowning one sounds quite good to watch from the beach, maybe.
Well, so the near drowning one was actually pretty good quality content, because I went out in Maui and I didn't even have my own surfboard that I was using at the time. I was using my mate's, which was the problem. And
you would have been fine on your own board, eh?
No, we'll get there. And then so go out. It was massive. It was at Hokipa, which is a North Shore beach, famous for the fact that the turtles come onto the beach like all the time. So people go there to watch and stuff. Anyways, long story short, I go out. Surfline, which isn't fully always accurate, was saying it was 15 to 18 foot.
Okay.
And some of the sets definitely were like around the 18 foot, because when that would come through, like the whole place just fully closes out.
Oh, yeah.
And you just like, there's sort of 2 breaks there. Anyway, so I decided that it was a good idea for me to go out. I'm not super good, but the thing that is nice there is that there's a rip that sort of pulls you out so you can catch waves. And even if it is kind of big, it's not like tube heavy. It's more like just like a very large wave that you're surfing. So I went out, it was sweet. Girlfriend was on the beach and she was taking photos. By the time you get out past the first little set that's there, you can't actually really see anyone unless you stand on the top of the lookout. And so she just ended up just lying on the beach, just chilling. And I got out the back and this massive set came through. And basically, I didn't even bother trying to duck dive it. I just swam down and my leash broke. Like it didn't... And this is where it's important to say that it wasn't my board, because it was my fault for not checking it 100%. But the leash didn't break at the board or anything. The leash literally snapped in half. So I still had part of the leash wrapped onto my leg. Anyways, I'm out there in like 15 to 18 foot waves getting absolutely pummeled. But it's the first time in my life I've ever really thought I was going to drown. And on top of that, it's the first time I've ever gone to a point where I thought I was going to drown, so I didn't know what to do and I kind of panicked. Usually I'm really calm in a situation where I think I'm going to die. In that situation, I made the cardinal sin where I was lying in the water and this massive waves coming. I've got no buoyancy because I was surfing in board shorts, no wetsuit, nothing, so I literally have no buoyancy. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do this time? Instead of getting punished when I swim under this wave, I'm going to lie on the surface.
Great idea.
And then I was in the washing machine and, yeah, anyways, long story short, ended up going to my safety stroke. Never done that before. Just like, was on safety.
Did it work?
I got to the beach, but yeah, came to the beach. Lifeguards were standing on the beach waiting for me. And they were like, we were going to come out and get you, but you kind of looked fine-ish, so we just thought we'd see how far you'd get before we came out. And then, yeah, still had the thing attached to my leg. The lifeguards were really nice once I came in. They said, would you like us to go get your board? I told them, no, it's okay, but they went and got it anyways.
Where was it?
It was just like further down, like
yeah.
where the windsurfers actually launch. And then came in and my girlfriend was like, what's wrong with you? And I was like fluorescent white and I was like puffing. And I was like, it's fine. I'm totally okay. She's like, where's your board? And I'm like...
Did she not see any of it?
She didn't see any of it. She was happily just taking photos on the beach of the shore break.
Probably thought some other guy was you. Like, yeah. Look at my man taking photos.
And then this couple come over to me and go, they were like, what happened out there? And they were like, we were watching and we'd just wait to see your head pop up. And I was like, yeah, it was like the closest I've ever come to drowning. And they're like, is that your girlfriend over there? Because at first we thought she was, but then she just didn't really seem to care. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, that's her.
That's her. So yeah, that's the closest I've ever come to drowning.
That's intense.
But it was good. Would happily go out again. I think in my mentality is if the waves were like that again, I'd go out instantly again, because if I didn't, I'll then have a fear of not going out in bigger waves.
Yeah, which to be fair might be a rational fear, but yeah, got to get back on the horse.
But they say that like people who get major injuries, like builders who like say cut their hand and stuff, as soon as they're able to, they should try and go back to using those tools. Otherwise, they'll...
Or like Mick Fanning, shark attack, get back in the water.
Yeah.
That's intense, but...
I mean, I'm not that afraid of sharks, to be fair. Like, I know that they're there.
You haven't been eaten by one either.
Yeah, exactly. But I am scared of crocodiles.
Mm.
Just the fact that they don't even eat you straight away, and they just store you in their little cave for a while just to ferment. It's kind of messed up.
That's a bit scary.
What would you prefer to be eaten by?
Would I prefer to be eaten by? I mean, are you talking shark or crocodile?
Yeah, or anything, actually.
I don't know. It just wouldn't be nice, would it? I did go in Brazil in the Pantanal, like with caimans. Caimans, they look like crocodiles.
Oh, yeah.
We had no idea they were in there. We were just fishing for piranha, and then we're standing in waist deep water. We were with a group, and then we got out, and then the tour guide or whatever whacked something on the water, and all these caimans come out, and we're just like, what? But obviously they didn't.
Do they attack people though, or are they?
Well, surely not, because otherwise we wouldn't have been in there. But they're still scary to see because they look like they'd eat you.
Yeah. Because I think it's freshwater crocodiles you can swim with, I think.
Yeah, so it was they were freshwater. Piranhas were also in there that we were catching and eating, and they taste quite good actually.
Really? How would you eat them? Like fresh or like
How do
cooked?
we eat them? On the barbecue. Yeah.
Piranha on the barbie.
Yeah. They were good. Fleshy.
Really?
Mm.
How big do they get?
Ones we were catching were like that kind of big.
Really?
30, 40 centimetres. Yeah. Tasty. Delicacy?
They're a delicacy.
Well, no, this might be.
They're delicious.
Yeah, let's bring them in.
And so, I mean, piranhas is a good way of thinking about like managing disputes, really.
Piranhas and sharks, anything that's going to attack you, they're out there. And whether you are the attacker, the shark, or whether you're being attacked, it happens and you got to deal with it.
And so what would you say is the most common way that people would manage a dispute or attack on a dispute?
It varies quite a lot depending on the size of the attack and other surrounding circumstances like the weather, as to what is most common. What we see a lot of is what people might call a David versus Goliath battle, which sometimes is, but a lot of the time it's just more sophisticated business enforcing a right that they have. So one thing I can talk about is recently you may have heard about Poppeys in Louisiana, a chicken chain over there. They've been operating in the US and probably other countries for ages. They first registered a trademark in New Zealand in 1976, I think it was, so a long time ago. But they just didn't use it. They didn't open here until I'm not sure exactly when they opened, maybe this earlier this year. And there was a little old Popeye takeaway place, sort of a fish and chip shop in Fielding, I believe. And the big Louisiana outfit said, hey, you got to stop using your name. We've got a trademark registration, and people are going to be confused into thinking that you're associated with us, and we want you to stop. So that kind of thing happens quite a lot. And as I say, it's not so much a David versus Goliath, it's more of a sophistication level or knowledge about trademarks and what they can do. And we've previously touched on that, on trademarks. But in this scenario, the Popeye and Fielding, they could have done something. I mean, they could have, ideally, when they first started out, I can't remember how long ago they started, but they should have done a search of the trademarks register and seen that there was this other trademark there, realised that Popeyes weren't trading in New Zealand and applied to revoke it, registered their own trademark, and that would have secured their position moving forward. But they didn't do that, and it's no sort of disrespect for them. There's definitely a knowledge gap in our system. People think by registering a company name or domain name that they've got rights to that name, but they don't. The trademark's the only thing that gives you those rights, or trademark registration. So they, like other businesses, just carried on normally until this happened, and they could have fought it in a way based on their use over an extended period of time, but it would have cost them a lot of money, etc. It's a bit uncertain, the outcome, and they just decided to rebrand to something else and got a bit of publicity about it, and probably are doing okay as a result. And in the end of the day, the brand for a local restaurant like that might not be as important as a national or international brand. But that's the kind of thing.
It could have been another Burger King, right?
It could have been another Burger King. They could have registered their Popeye thing, and then when Popeyes had actually decided to come here, they would have been up against that trademark registration, and they would have either taken the risk with it on the basis that the little old place in Fielding won't do anything about it, or they'd choose a different brand for the New Zealand market, or they might pay little old Fielding Popeye heaps of money to have the trademark. And
how does that work then if there is a trademark that's lapsed, so they're not using it? When you apply for that trademark, they get notified that there are...
So if you applied for a trade, so if it's lapsed, it's gone from the register. But if it's still on the register, you're just not using it. So say there was another squid out there that has existed it's been on the trademarks register for ages, but they're not using it. You apply for your trademark for squid. This other squid is blocking yours. The trademarks office goes, hey, this is the same mark. We're not going to let you have that. And then you see it hasn't been used, you've got to apply to remove it. In other countries like the US, you have to positively maintain trademarks, but here in New Zealand and Australia, it just sits on there until someone does something about it. But then if they're not using it, you'd just be able to knock it out, and then yours would go through.
So they don't necessarily get notified though, so it wouldn't have forced their hand to then enter the market earlier?
Yeah, so they'd know when you'd attacked it, but they can't rectify that by then starting to trade. They'd have to already be using it previously to stop it.
Yeah. And
it's got to be good faith use. You can't just send a couple of tokens. If it was more of a product, send a beer, send 2 beers to New Zealand. It's got to be genuine use. But a lot of bigger companies just sit on these trademarks until they get revoked, because a lot of the time people won't go to that effort, even though it's not much of an effort if they're not using it. It just acts as a blocker. It's good for them. And sometimes people will register a whole bunch of different trademarks because of all different ideas they've got at the time, and just kind of go with 1 or 2 or whatever that get through and work, and then or that become more favourable, and just hold on to the others. So it's actually quite a cluttered system. There'd be a lot of trademarks sitting on there that aren't being used that you could get rid of if you wanted to.
So then for a business that has a trademark on the register already, and they're looking at, they're for one specific business, but they're wanting to separate that business and split out that business, what's the benefits / negatives of getting a trademark for that business to sell, and does that often come into the process of selling a business?
So you're talking about selling a business with a trademark registration?
Yeah, compared to not. Often you see businesses will get a trademark when they're about to sell, because it obviously cements their brand and their identity and everything else.
So, same goes for investment. If you're looking for investment or you're looking to sell your business, if it's a sophisticated person who's looking at potentially investing or buying, they're going to look at what you've got, and one of those things is trademark registrations. So if you have a trademark registration for your main brand, then that's going to give some security to them to what they're investing in and what they're buying has those exclusive rights. So if you don't have a trademark registration, they're going to have to look more closely, and they might be a bit unnerved by not having those rights, and will have to make their own call on whether or not to buy or to invest in those circumstances. And that can affect things like you might have warranties in the sale and purchase agreement that says, yes, we're going to buy your business, but first you need to sort out your trademarks. Or it might mean that you can only sell it for a lower price because they're taking the risk, etc. The trademark registrations is something that they're pretty important, and across not only your main brand, but if you've got sub brands, range of products that all have different brands, everything registered, basically everything in order, is going to make it easier for someone who's looking to invest or sell buy your business, give them comfort that what they're buying is, valid and gives them ongoing rights.
Yeah. And so with those rights then, in the States, what would be your rationale between registering trademarks because you can go state by state or nationally?
Yeah, I'd always go nationally in the States unless you were only ever going to be focused on a certain state. But even then, because the national registration will give you rights in all of those states, so sort of what's the, and it's not much more of a cost to have the whole of the country. And obviously you don't really know, like you might be only in Hawaii at that point in time, but could easily spread into California or whatever, or you might not know where a future business owner might want to take it to. And that's, you're sort of second guessing where the business is going. But, and the same goes with EU. I'd always suggest registering the whole of the EU, unless you've got issues at that level where there's a trademark registration that's going to stop you in a particular country but not the other, and you don't, if it's Spain you care about and that's there's no issues there, then go for that. But usually the whole area is going to be more beneficial in the long run, not just for you but other people who might be involved in the business.
And so with that in mind then, your trademarks in each region can change. We can probably talk about squid on this. Probably an easy one to talk about.
You mean the variation of the trademark? Yeah.
So like if we look at squid's trademark, right, we've got squid as a general term for certain countries.
Yeah.
But then we have descriptors for other regions, because like the States, to have squid across the whole of the States would be quite difficult. So how does that come into effect, I guess, for having descriptors within your brand name and things like that?
Yeah, it can be a little bit tricky to deal with across different countries, but and it's almost trickier than having a completely different brand. To use that Burger King Hungry Jack's example, there's no variation. It's just Hungry Jack's, and there's nothing. You don't need to worry about managing all that kind of thing. Whereas where it's a variation of your own trademark, it's something you kind of have to be aware of to keep up with and not use the other version. But if you're selling just the US as a business, then that can obviously be split out as a separate thing. If you're selling the whole of the business, then it's just something that the new owner would understand and take on. And in your situation, it's completely feasible. It's not like it's onerous in terms of what you've got to do. But some are onerous. You can end up in situations where you have similar trademarks in different countries. Say you've come up against something that's similar in the UK, and there's a bit of a spat between you and the other business, and then you come to some kind of coexistence agreement where you're like, okay, our trademarks are similar, but we can coexist because our products are a bit different, or whatever. The Trademarks Office doesn't see it that way. It sees it very black and white. There's a conflict here, but between yourselves, you've kind of worked it out. So you've said you can keep trading as under your name under these conditions, and vice versa. Those things are something that is stuck with the business generally forever in that certain territory, but kind of can be a bit lost, particularly in bigger businesses as time goes on. Like people forget they had that agreement or whatever. But those kind of things are things you need to kind of stick to and manage, and would be part of someone's due diligence, like looking at your company to be aware of.
Yeah. It's there's definitely certain variations which make it more complicated. I could imagine some would be, other than ours, we've never had to really go through that with you for any clients or anything like that. But for us, it's pretty simple. a specific service really that we're doing in a different country. Otherwise, it's the general term, right?
Yeah.
And where do you have to change that? Is that across everything with that brand name usually?
It's an interesting point. It can get, in your situation, it's not too bad because like you have a US dedicated website or page for US customers or whatever, and that's what you'd refer to them. I'm not actually sure of the specifics of like someone in the US searching for you, whether they get access to everything or whether
they get specific content. Yeah.
So they get specific
IP focused.
And so sometimes in infringement matters where there's been a dispute, it'll be geo-blocked or whatever, like you just can't, like someone in the US can't access my website, for example, because that would infringe someone's trademark. So it can get very specific for certain disputes and things, but where you've kind of just tweaked your name or how you present it for a certain market, there's probably less of a thing about it because it's just what someone, particularly if the customer or potential customer is just going to end up on the US-centric website anyway, there's probably no real harm done.
Yeah. Cool. So to close things off.
It's the... We've got to close out, have we?
So to close things off, what when are you next going surfing?
Well, there's not too much going on at the moment out there, is there? Hoping for something to pop up. I am going to Noosa in July for 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah?
Which I'm hoping will bring some nice mellow point breaks for me. See what happens. What about you?
Nah, pretty much. I'm doing a snow season, I think, this year down here. Hopefully I'm gonna find out where you store your keys in the South Island and just stay at your place. But if I don't do that,
they're quite well hidden.
I think it's a snow season for me. I would love to go back to Aussie for a little bit, but
well, next time we can talk about snow then.
Yeah.
And other near-death experiences that you might have had in the meantime.
Oh, yeah, exactly. In the same clothes.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Nice. Thanks for tuning in to another Squid Group podcast. If you're looking for a marketing partner to grow your brand, business, or event, contact us here at Squid Group. See you next time.